Hello everybody, welcome to Infinite Realms. This is Robert, just taking a look at a few things that have caught my eye in the past couple of weeks or so. Well, first up, let's take a look here. It looks like Archon Studios has released something a little bit ahead of the game, Masters of the Universe Battlegrounds, which basically takes the premise from the previous game, kind of puts it in a smaller set. So the miniatures look pretty much like the ones we saw on GameFound, with the exception of He-Man, who looks a little bit better, and Orko looks a little different. Looks like he has a clear stand to imitate floating rather than being sitting on a brick wall. The evil doers look about the same. There's no minions or minion busts or whatever, however you want to call those things in this set, and it looks like you get some terrain pieces. Now, I got a little excited for this because I was like, oh, could this be a chance to maybe get those miniatures without having to go in for that funding? Because I did think a couple of those miniatures were better than Seamon's, although overall Seamon I thought was better. And then got to looking around, and of course, you know, the back, and it's just got those 10 miniatures in the terrain, which is supposed to be the walls of Grayskull, I've come to understand, but kind of just looks like plain walls, so it could be anything. That's when I found out that the game is sneaking into America, and it's going for $105, which seems a bit much for about maybe 10 miniatures and some terrain pieces. That's Warhammer level stuff. I mean, it's actually a little worse than Warhammer's big box sets. So you can see here what you get with it, and I didn't want to put any specific store up on that, couldn't make it look like I'm playing favorites or anything, but I did want to show it. It also, interestingly enough, looks like the figures are on sprues, which was a bit of a surprise to me. Now, I don't mind sprues when you have options for your characters, but this is weird because it doesn't look like there are options from what I'm seeing on the sprues. It looks like you just have to assemble them. The whole thing just doesn't seem worth it to me for $105. I'm going to say easy pass on this. So next up, I wanted to touch on one of the Song Ice and Fire miniature game boards I'm on. Did have some leaked pictures that apparently are the Lannisport's Honor Guard, which I think those miniatures are looking pretty good. I've been a little iffy on continuing with the Lannisters, but I may pick this one up for the miniatures itself. Then, of course, the Golden Company soldiers were there too, and they look really pretty good. I'm almost certain I'm going to be buying the Golden Company, so it's good to see that those are going to come out good. So at the beginning of this week, the Thor Love and Thunder Marvel Legends wave premiered, and within days they were being reviewed online, which I was kind of going, heh? So people are saying they're finding these at Walmart. I'm not sure if that is the case, or if a leak happened and Marvel said to they send early prototypes to just go ahead and give it a whirl. My feeling is, though, I've got 3 Walmarts within driving distance of my home, and I've not seen a thing. I'm still seeing Doctor Strange figures, so I'm a little wary of people running those reviews right now, because I don't know if you're getting the most unbiased opinion. Personally, half the time when I see reviews, I just kind of click the mute button and just look at the figures themselves. So, but speaking of the figures, let's take a closer look here. I really dig Ravager Thor. I dig the look of the figure. I think he's pretty awesome looking. It's what I would expect, and he's got Stormbreaker, so that's pretty cool. And now the gold armor Thor looks pretty similar to the Emperor, King Thor. That's what I was trying to think of. Looks pretty similar to the King Thor. I really kind of like that one too. That one may get my attention. Now, Star-Lord, I kind of dig Star-Lord. I think he looks pretty cool. He's not perfect, but he's alright. I keep going back and forth on Star-Lord. I don't know if I'll own one. Groot is, of course, a little tiny because he's still an adolescent. Thor the God Butcher does not look a thing like his comic book representation. Although I did see one review, and I did see some odd markings on, it's like sort of raised tattoos on his face, which, well, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. But no, he doesn't look anything like his comic book interpretation. So there's that. Then there is, of course, Mighty Thor herself. And I saw a couple of people really get mad. Why is she Mighty Thor? Stupid woke people. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to make everything political. It's just ridiculous. So, zooming in on her face there, you can see, yeah, she kind of looks like Natalie Portman. So I'm thinking they might be pulling a CGI job on this. It's like, they're just going to make Natalie Portman look bigger. Which is, okay, I guess. I mean, I'm not totally against it. I'm not really, happy about it. I've been curious about this for a long time, how they were going to handle it. Because, Natalie Portman's 5'3". And from the pictures I'm seeing, it looks like they're making a Mighty Thor. Around 6 foot, maybe. I'm not sure. It's hard to say, these are action figures. You never really can tell the height. But I would assume they would make female Thor taller. Now, of course, I've seen several people get really upset about female Thor appearing in the movies. They're like, well, Captain America picked up the hammer, he didn't change. Well, he didn't have to. I mean, it's Captain America. But, another one was like, I don't mind characters having similar power like Beta Ray Bill or Thunderstrike. And I'm just like sitting there groaning going, okay, first off, Beta Ray Bill, when he picked up the hammer, transformed into a Thor-like being. When before Thunderstrike happened, everybody forgets that Thor was banished, and for 2 solid years, Eric Masterson was Thor. And then, when Thor came back and reclaimed his mantle, the Thunderstrike was what was granted to Eric Masterson. And, of course, everyone forgets that. Of course, now Kevin Masterson is running around as Thunderstrike, so that's a whole different story. But point is, it never ceases to amaze me how people want to complain about this and make it a big deal. Again, looking back, nobody ever complained when Jim Rhodes actually put on the Iron Man suit and was flying around as Iron Man while Tony Stark was dealing with his alcoholism. So, moving on. And in some other Marvel Legend news, looks like Defender Strange should be out soon. He looks okay. I'm not going to go out of my way for him, but he looks alright. He's one of those that I'm, admire from afar. Ulrich the Troll, supposed to be coming out sometime with Thor. He's going to be one of those bigger figures that's technically part of the wave, but not. So, good looking figure. I kind of like him. I don't know if I'm going to get him or not. I know I'm probably going to get Ravager Thor, Golden Armor Thor, and probably Lady Thor. And I don't buy that many from the cinematic side of things. I prefer the comic ones. Ulrich is much more comic oriented, so I'm digging that. And it looks like the new Disney Plus wave's getting slowly but surely revealed. Moon Knight and Mr. Knight have been revealed. Moon Knight is the only one that's really appealing to me on this one. I do dig that outfit. I do dig, how it looks and the detailing in it. So I'm okay with that. There's a fan Tuesday this week, so we're probably going to see a whole bunch of other stuff. The only things I see coming down the line, there is a Spider-Man wave, which looks okay, but I'm not going to go out of my way to grab anything out of this. There is the 30th anniversary Hulk supposed to come out soon. I'm debating this one because I need a good Hulk figure in my Marvel Legends collection. That's probably one of the bigger characters I don't have at all. And, I'm debating back and forth of either going back and getting an older Hulk or this new one. This new one looks pretty impressive. I like him. So, it's he's a little up there on the price range. And, I forgot to mention that the Disney Plus Build-A-Figure was revealed too. That's going to be Ultron with the Infinity Stones. Wow, I can't talk. And, yeah, that's okay. It's not fantastic. It's not great. Not something, another Build-A-Figure I'm not going to worry too much about. I don't hate him, don't get me wrong. I just don't love him. Also, the Marvel Select Moon Knight was revealed. And that looks pretty good too. So, you know, there's a lot of good things kind of coming out on Marvel Legends. Looking further on, there is another X-Men wave. I didn't see anything that really caught my eye on that. And then further down the line, I think it's around September or so, there's going to be a Build-A-Figure collector wave. That does feature another Iron Man, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll buy it, maybe I won't. Speedball. It just looks like Thor when he was the Herald of Galactus, and Quake. And the only one that really sticks out to me there is the U.S. Agent, because I have passed on U.S. Agent before, and it's one of those figures I probably should have in my collection. I could just say this is really Cap when he was dressed up as the Captain, you know, because that is where the uniform came from. So I could go with that route. I always did like the look of the U.S. Agent. I just didn't like, and I like the storyline that it involves. Originally, John Walker wore on me for after a while. Yes, that's true. And so, finally, there was this opinion piece in the Washington Post that caught my attention. Basically going on about, first off, how bad Morbius was. It's like, well, I mean, it was Sony. We expected it to be bad, so that's not a major thing. I was talking about original movies that have talked about Everything Everywhere All at Once with Michelle Yeoh, which looks like a really good movie. I do have to admit, I'm on board with that one. That one looks really good. Then, and Michelle Yeoh is always top notch, so, you know, that does look like a really good movie. And then talked about The Massive Weight of Talent with Nick Cage, which also looks like a really good movie. Our friend the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, is also in it, and so that looks like a really good movie. Talked about The Northman. Could be good, could be bad, hard to say. Not really. I'll say that one doesn't excite me as much as the other two. I do admit that, and it's been pretty dry for movies of late. You have to point that out as well. It's just not been good. Even the Marvel movies have not been that good. Spider-Man: No Way Home was probably the best one of the bunch in the past year. Black Widow was very disappointing, and Shang-Chi was okay, but it wasn't great. But the big part of this article, this opinion piece that caught my eye, is, you know, the writer's talking about this. The Northman's one of the most anticipated films of the year, because we don't get many movies like this anymore. And literally it drops down and says, and that's because you, the movie-going audience, who desperately avoid movies like The Last Duel, have made it this way. And I stopped right there, and you just lost me. Because The Last Duel is honestly a horrible film. It's essentially taking the old sitcom trope of this is what happened and doing a skit, and then somebody else saying, no, this is what happened, and everybody else looked like an idiot except for the person telling the story. And it, you know, they did it on Happy Days, they did it on Laverne and Shirley, they've done it on it got so old. I think the last time that trope was used was Growing Pains, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. It may have been used on Family Matters. I don't know, but it was stupid, and it was always, you know, you could tell nobody was telling the truth, because no matter what, they came out like the shining angel of the story. But then you try to put that very bad trope onto a historical drama that is supposed to be based on a non-fiction book of an account that really happened, and then it's like, it just did not work. It was, it was, and I try not to knock too many people. You had Ben Affleck and Matt Damon trying to do English accents, and it sounded like, I can't even describe how bad they sounded. You know, Adam Driver at least pulled it off, but the others, I mean, poor Matt and Ben, they just, it was comedic to hear them do accents like that. And don't get me wrong, I really love Ridley Scott. I mean, he directed 2 of my favorite movies, Blade Runner and Alien. But I have to admit, Ridley Scott has really not had it for a long time. And that's, look at what happened to the Alien movies. And that is, Ridley Scott was in the middle of it. I mean, those got Prometheus, I can't even begin to talk about anymore because it's just, that one was just, oh man. Yeah, it's just, this is not Ridley Scott from the 80s. This is Ridley Scott, kind of the grumpy old man on the porch. Get off my lawn! And he's complaining because his movies are not making as much money. And it's because his movies are not as good as they used to be. Gladiator was the last movie I got a little bit of something out of. And really, it was only at the very end that I feel like that had something going for it. But it didn't, The Last Duel did not resonate, and there's a reason why. It's not because people won't refuse to go to good movies, it's because it's not a good movie. So yeah, I mean, that really bugged me about this article. I mean, I know movie critics try to say that The Last Duel was a great movie, and I don't understand where they're coming from. And I appreciate good movies. I like good movies, and The Last Duel was not one. It was just horrible movie. It dragged on. It was repetitive. It did that, like I said, whoever was the perspective was the one who looked like the nice, sweet little angel. Oh, yeah, I'm doing things perfectly. Meanwhile, if it's not me telling the story, they say I can't get up on my horse. It was just bad. It was very poor and bad. And people want to blame Marvel for ruining movies and Star Wars for ruining movies. It's like, no, you're not doing the movies that you were. John Carpenter finally faced this fact and just kind of backed away. And I don't blame him. I mean, he was a great writer-director, and somewhere along the way, he kind of started getting burned out a little bit of it. And he admits it later, he got burned out. And he just kind of stepped away for a bit. Not every director or writer holds on to that passion. It ebbs and flows, and sometimes they're just not as good as they used to be. And, I think, to me, Ridley Scott is not where he was 20, 30 years ago. And, it's just something that, I mean, it was, Last Duel really says to me, this is not a good movie. I mean, it'll be one thing if it was this fantastic film everybody ignored, but no, it's not. It wasn't a fantastic film. And, the author here says non-franchise films that were on top of the box office was 2021 was Free Guy. It was in at number 11. So what? Free Guy. I mean, it's, okay, whatever. I liked Free Guy. It was a funny movie. Good movie. It's Ryan Reynolds. I mean, of course it's a good movie. But, to say, it just really bugs me that instead of looking at, hey, what is working? Why are these working? Why are these resonating? Why are these movies resonating? To be so negative and say, oh, well, it's the audience's fault. And that always bothers me, because that kind of ranting, it just is like, maybe there's a reason the audience is going here. I'm the audience too. Why would people desperately avoid The Last Duel? Because people went and watched it and didn't like it. It's that simple. And I mean, that happens in movies a lot, even with well-established big-time directors. And I believe Martin Scorsese went here too a while back, and he got panned for it because his movie ended up on Netflix. And I I didn't watch that movie because it was because of his rant. I was just like, why should I watch your film? I mean, you know, a lot of people like Martin Scorsese. I have never been a really big fan of his. The movies I've watched of his, it's just kind of like, you know, it's okay. A lot of people say I'm an idiot for that. I don't care, because I do think there's this disconnect between what is subjectively good and what you think objectively good is, and it's not the same thing. And honestly, good automatically is an opinion, and people seem to forget that what I think is good is not what you're going to think is good. Maybe, who knows, sometimes that happens. And anytime you say good or better or etc., it automatically becomes an opinion. There is no objectivity to it. And people think that reviews should be objective, and it's impossible to be objective in a review, because it's an opinion, and it's pure and simple. Now, you have reasons for your opinion. You can back up your opinion very easily, and you would be justified in that if you had reasons to back up your opinion. But at the end of the day, a movie review is your opinion, and there's no way to separate the two. It's always going to be an opinion. And I've actually heard people say, well, your review is not objective. No review is objective. And I always get really, I always crack up at people who say, well, reviewer is not objective. Yeah, they are. It's, you know, again, it's an opinion. And it's okay to have opinions. And it's okay to have opinions that are different. And that's why I'm saying, you know, I was on board with this whole editorial until that very last statement. Well, that's not the last statement, but this is the last statement I just read. It really made me think about this subject, and then I really just was like, man, Last Duel just sucked. And that's it. Last Duel just sucked. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of, well, I don't know what to call this, Observation and Views, maybe. Yeah, that'll do it. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep the content going.